Hi guys, this is gsndon.com and I'm here with a handset called the Allview X3 Soul Lite, which is also known as the Gionee F103 Pro, in India at least. And that version was announced on 27th of June, and in the Allview version 28th of June, what's for certain is that we're dealing with a mid-range handset priced below $200, or better said, $177. It's a youthful phone that reminds me of the Allview X3 Soul Mini. Once again, it's called the Allview X3 Soul Lite. This one has a pretty interesting color here, and it stands out because it has 3 GB of RAM for below $200, which is rare nowadays, and a beautiful 2.5D front panel. It's time to discuss about the design first. Keep in mind that Allview offers it in gold or gray, while in India the Gionee version comes in white. This is a 5-inch handset with a 2.5D front panel that's good looking. It has a solid metal frame right here, it's well built, and there's a removable back cover which allows you to access the slots here and the battery here. Quite a solid back cover as well, made of polycarbonate, although from the distance it looks a bit like metal. It's also a slightly rounded back, good ergonomics, it sits excellently in the hand, and it can easily be used with a single hand like I'm doing right now. It measures 8.5 millimeters in thickness, and meanwhile it's about 0.4 millimeters thicker than the Galaxy S5, for example. It weighs 142.7 grams, which is about the same weight of an HTC One A9, for example. One hand usage is easy, and we have comfy buttons on the side here, good grip, a shiny metal frame, especially in the full sunlight reflection, and the back imitates the metal a little bit. We get a good build here, great design, and nice ergonomics for the price tag. Now, as far as the display is concerned, this one is a 5-inch IPS LCD with an in-cell panel and a 2.5D panel, that is. The resolution is 1280 over 720 pixels, and we get Dragon Trail glass protection. Now, the video player that is pre-installed, let's find out its options. Okay, so we got DTS sound, we got a pop-up play-like feature, and now let's actually witness to the quality of the screen. So we're dealing here with a crisp and bright display with okay colors, no oversaturation. The white is a bit too white, so to say. The contrast is rather poor, especially in sunlight, and we get wide view angles, as you can well see here. Now let's see how this screen handled our tests. So we go here, and first of all we got the pixels of the RGB stripes variety, and then we use the lux meter to measure the brightness of the display. We got up to 350 lux, which is quite okay. It beats the Huawei P8, the Asus Zenfone 2, but scores below the Yumi Touch and the Allview X3 Soul Mini. The screen gets its very own dedicated settings, like those ones here. Got display, brightness, adaptive brightness, economical backlight, font style and size, auto rotate, sleep, and LCD effect can be set to neutral, cool or warm color. Multitask style is the last option here. Overall, a good display, nice looking panel, too bad for the contrast, but overall for below $200 I'm happy with the quality we receive here. Now I want to discuss the hardware a bit more. Inside the handset you will find a quad-core MediaTek MT6735 processor clocked at 1.3 GHz with a Mali T720 GPU, 3 GB of RAM, 16 GB of storage, and a microSD card slot. The phone has a fluid functioning, it does not suffer from lag, and has good performance. We ran some games on it, like Riptide GP2, with good results. We didn't drop frames, the graphics look nice, and all the textures were in their rightful place. Here we go, looking nice so far. Let's see how responsive it is. The water looks nice, speed sensation is good, response to the controls well, frame rate is also good. So when it comes to gaming, you'll have no regrets. There is 3 GB of RAM and a solid MediaTek processor to hold on to the weight. Now let's see. Regarding the performance, as usual we have benchmarks. Let's have a look at them. Okay, so something I noticed here, in Quadrant for example, we were at the level of the Huawei P8, and that was last year's flagship, which is no small feat, while in Antutu we were at about the same level as the Huawei G8, and the 3D test, the 3D sub-test, put us on par with the Samsung Galaxy A7 2016, which is excellent. Also, in 3D Mark Ice Storm Unlimited, at some point we were even past the Allview P8 energy and just a slight bit below the Huawei Honor 4X. So okay performance, but now time to discuss the temperature. A bit of a problem here. After running the game Riptide GP2 for 15 minutes, we got to overheating 44.3 degrees Celsius, and that's not okay for the long gaming sessions. Now I want to discuss the battery. The phone comes with a 2400 mAh lithium polymer unit, also a 5V 1A charger, which we don't have because we have a test unit. On paper we're promised up to 720 minutes of talk time. Now in our test, let's see just how much we achieved with this battery. So let's find the result of the battery. Here we go. We achieved 6 hours and 44 minutes of continuous HD video playback, which is not exactly very impressive in spite of the price tag, but at least we surpassed the HTC One M9, for example. With this very same duration, we scored below the Amazon Fire Phone and the Sony Xperia E4, which is not exactly very impressive because those were underwhelming models. In PC Mark, we got as high as 5 hours and 7 minutes, also not very impressive, but at least we beat the Huawei P9 and also scored below the Xiaomi Mi 4i, not exactly a landmark in this area. Well, we don't have data about charging because we were not provided with the official charger, considering what we achieved with the unofficial one, about 2 hours or less. We also have battery saving settings. Let's find them. Advanced, and let's see, manage battery, power manager. Here we have 3 main modes: normal, power saving and extreme power saving. This one has sub options like a dark theme and restricting some apps, and this one extreme power saving, all black and white, and basic features. We also have smart power saving at night and some extra features like battery optimization. It's basically those from Marshmallow. So overall, not a very impressive battery. Thank God it's replaceable through that removable cover. As far as acoustics are concerned, got the speaker right here, no headphones bundled, DTS technology. The player is typical if you saw an Allview or Gionee F103 or other Gionee device before. Now the options include an equalizer, we got DTS as I said before, a few custom settings for headphones, and an effects volume tailored to genres, plus this extra equalizer with 5 custom channels ready for you to tweak. Okay, so I'm going to leave the DTS option on, go to the player and see how the back speaker handles the test. Here we go. Okay, so as you just heard, there's a bit of muffling on a flat surface, not exactly muffling as much as a strange effect that deforms the music. Anyway, the general experience, we had an okay volume, no distortion, nice bass and guitar, good high notes, and generally a good experience. We also did a decibel meter test, and let's see how that came out. So gallery, and we go here, and we achieved 86.4 decibels at the back and 85.4 decibels at the front, 1 decibel of difference on a flat surface. Taking into account the bigger value, we scored on the 19th place of all the phones we tested and beat the Galaxy S6 Plus, S6 Edge Plus, Galaxy Note 5 and S7, so that's nice. There is also FM radio pre-installed right here if you have headphones. Now as far as the camera goes, at the back there is a 13 megapixel shooter with a LED flash, and at the front 5 megapixel shooter with a flash screen. Basically the screen will flash with a strong white light to replace a front camera flash. Now as far as the actual camera experience goes, let's close some apps, start from 0, and here we go. Open up the camera like this. A reasonable starting speed, not very fast, not very slow, and if you ever saw an Allview phone before, you know exactly what UI to expect. So first let's see the experience. Get a fluid zoom. I was surprised to see how fast this camera was able to focus. Truly shockingly good. So fast focus and also fast exposure change, as you can well see here. And speaking of fast, pretty fast picture taking as well. Okay, Once again, the UI is typical for all views, so we got here options like geotag, guidelines, picture size, countdown, capture mode, and here the main modes. There's panorama, smart scene, GIF, night, time-lapse, macro, HDR, professional, text recognition, smart scan, super photo that creates 5 shots equaling 13 megapixels each, basically a 60 megapixel shot, pic note, and mood photo. Those are all the options, and professional with extra options like exposure, white balance, ISO, shutter, and focusing. So those are the main modes. On the right side, the latest mode you used appears here at the top. Then there's photo, face beauty, and video, plus a selection of filters to play with. There's that. So now it's time to go to the gallery and see how this camera did during our tests. Okay, so we start off with the daytime shots, which were taken in July during a day of mixed sun and clouds. So what we noticed here is that the clouds are pretty well rendered. Some of the phones out there, even more expensive ones, have a problem with rendering the cloud area. That's nice. We also did an HDR that was rather burnt, as you can see. Generally, I was happy with the colors here, pretty well calibrated. The selfie was well lit. The texture of the hair and skin felt a bit artificial, and the background was not very clear, but at least very bright selfie, and without using that extra flash option. So every once in a while we took a landscape shot and found the details to be underwhelming, sadly. And the panorama has a modest resolution, 4624 over 1200 pixels, and it's also a bit burnt. At least it's not curved like some panoramas are. And we started to zoom in here. There's a crane in the distance. Zoom in level 1, details are okay. Zoom in level 2, things start to get really blurry and you won't notice much of anything. We do have some blurry shots every once in a while. This is not one of those perfect cameras. Once again, we play with the zoom, and I find the colors to be satisfying, although sometimes there's a bit of burn. So these are macros and close-ups with very good detail. There is a special macro option in the camera area and it worked out fine. And this playground with these toys offered us some great textures of metal and plastic. One more HDR, also a bit burnt and a bit spoiling the image, making it a bit more artificial. We have to mention that it takes a bit of patience to get the right shot here, so that's why some of the pictures may get blurry, but when you get the proper frame, you achieve something like this. This is a shot taken in the shade of a beautiful tree cone, and it's truly a work of art, if I can say so myself. Okay, for example, this is a failed shot. We rushed it, we burnt it, and we felt the need to take it again. With more patience, things tend to look better. Once again, it's a phone that costs below $200. I would place it around the level of the, let's say, Galaxy S4, not more than that. In the shade, some blur will appear, also a strange dynamic range and exposure in the background, but in the end, the captures are satisfying if you want to post photos on Facebook. Now, as far as the low light capture goes, we also have those. Didn't expect anything big here. And things I noticed, well, the flash was rather good. We had okay clarity, pretty good colors, some blur every once in a while, and some fuzz around the edges of the monuments, big streetlight halos, blur in the distance when taking a landscape shot, but in the end, some pretty nice close-ups. And for example, I feel that this low light capture is above the one of the Verni Tor, just by a little bit. I've seen much worse, and for less than $200 I'm happy with this capture. Now let's see how the video did. So we shot MP4 in Full HD at 70 megapixel bitrate and 30 frames per second frame rate. So as far as the daytime capture goes, let's have a look at some of these videos we caught. We start off with this one here. Okay, so things we noticed is that the image is a bit shaky. There are constant and minor exposure adjustments that for some may be annoying and for others may be pleasing because the camera tries really hard to adjust the exposure. We got a pretty okay clarity and good colors, well calibrated colors, and the sky is rendered pretty well. The microphone also handled the noise pretty well. And let's see another video, this one here. So the mic faces the wind in a pretty good fashion. There's a bit of blur in the distance when you really try to make out the details, and when you're zooming in there's a bit of quality loss. and some of the clips we shot had some sunburn, but not exactly major. It feels most of all like a very good or just good 8 megapixel camera rather than a mediocre 13 megapixel shooter if you really want a comparison, and I feel that my very own iPhone 5 is able to film a bit better. It's also a bit inferior to the Allview X3 Soul Mini if you want a comparison with a phone from the same range. Now during the night things change a bit, so there is a drop to 17 frames per second and 10 mega per second, which can be felt. You can see that the frame rate is lower here. There's a bit of ghosting going on, the image is a bit yellow, also a bit foggy when you're moving around. Overall it's a neglectable nighttime capture. The daytime is just mediocre, nothing fancy, but once again for a price tag below $200 I have to say I'm reasonably content with the results, not more than that. So overall it's only a good camera if you want to post Facebook pictures and your selfies will be bright, that's for sure. You can forget about the video capture because it's neglectable. Now let's see other aspects of the phone. So we got a browser here, this is the pre-installed one. Let's go to gsmdown.com. As you can see, not the fastest browser in the world, which is also confirmed by the poor benchmarks. And here's our site. We got a stock virtual keyboard here, and on the connectivity front, let's see what we get. So this phone is a dual SIM unit with 4G LTE support, FDD and TDD LTE. It can do up to 150 mega per second downloads. It has micro SIM slots. There's Bluetooth 4.0, HD voice, HSDPA, Wi-Fi BGN, Wi-Fi Direct and micro USB 2.0 right here. As far as the calls go, options include blacklist and speed dial, and the actual calls are loud. They're also clear and the signal is quite good. Speaking of signals and things related, let's see how we did in the famous speed test. So this is a 4G test. We scored 95 mega per second in download and 46 in upload, which is quite good. While in Wi-Fi we scored 62 mega per second in download and 25 in upload. I've seen better in the download section on a previously tested device, but overall it feels like a good set of connectivity options. Now, software-wise, this model runs on Android 6.0 Marshmallow with some customization. For example, in the lock screen, you have some inspirational quotes, beautiful images, and if you tap one of these quotes, you'll go to a website focused on entertainment, or in this case, sports. Other aspects of the software experience, well, we have a carousel here for the multitasking, pretty typical for Marshmallow, and the drop-down section has been split now. If you swipe down, you only see notifications, and now if you swipe up, you'll see the quick settings. There are 8 icons here, and more here, of course, that can be tweaked and moved around. Now, the home screen can be pinched, so you can tweak your apps, your widgets with some pretty nice looking 3D ones, and effects also available here. If you swipe up on home screen, you got the launcher theme option, edit desktop, search, wallpaper, desktop settings. This one's related to layout, gestures and desktop loop, plus once again launcher theme. So those are the aspects you can change here. Well, other than that, let's see what's happening here. So if you swipe with 2 fingers towards the bottom, this is a special security feature allowing you to access a specially private space protected by a password where you can keep your secret phone calls, messaging and contacts. And speaking of unique things, if you go deeper into the gallery, settings, trash, you can see the photos you deleted and they'll be kept for a few days, as far as I know, a month. And now let's go to the settings and see what's happening here. So usual connectivity options, do not disturb, security and advanced settings with smart gestures like smart bright screen, keeping the screen on as long as your face is detected by the front camera. Suspend button, we already know it for a while now from other devices, and that's pretty much it. Now, as far as the pre-installed apps go, I counted them all, so we're dealing with bloatware here because there are 46 pre-installed apps. The one that really got to me was Abroad Service, which is the first time we're seeing such an app on an Allview phone. It's very nice. It lets you plan your trip in this summer and your checklist, things to do. You got trips here that are planned and a memo so you can remember to have a note included. So pretty useful app if you plan on traveling. Other than this one, we have Bitdefender Mobile Security, Chameleon, which draws colors from the camera and creates a theme. There is a child mode for the little ones, which can only access certain apps. and has a special parental control. There's Facebook and there's a system manager to keep things in check. Okay, so that's that. This was the review of the Allview X3 Soul Lite, also known as the Gionee F103 Pro, the locally integrated version, and now it's time for the verdict. On the Pro side, it's a very affordable phone, below $200, and it's good looking, comfy, has a pretty good display and good performance. An advantage is the replaceable battery, of course. It has some nice acoustics, reasonable pictures, and good connectivity, plus the fact that we have Marshmallow and that nifty Trip app are also good things. Now on the cons side, the screen's contrast could be better. Also, there's a bit of overheating going on here, a bit of bloatware as confirmed as well, the battery could be better, and the video was not exactly impressive and wasn't special. In the end, I would be tempted to call it a gaming phone if it weren't for the high temperature, which makes it remain a youthful phone, good for internet, good for Facebook, and the pictures taken by the back camera are only good for Facebook. We can ignore the video. So it's also a bit future-proof thanks to those 3GB of RAM, and you saw the benchmarks, they're quite good. So youthful, a bit future-proof, and good for Facebooking and doing the internet, especially abroad and in a vacation. That's all about the Allview X3 Soul Lite, aka the Gionee F103 Pro in the locally integrated Romanian version and priced below $200. This is gsn.com. Bye bye.